Welcome to the TCS Women Podcast, where the ladies of the top contractor school are going to get together to discuss what it's like to be a woman in construction, leadership, and navigating the balance between it all. Your host for the TCS Women Podcast will be Carla Goldammer, who has been in construction for almost 30 years with D&J Site Construction. She will be accompanied by a rotation of co-hosts that include Elizabeth Reinman of RK Reinman Construction, Sandra Albert of Bay Country Contractors, Lillian Calloway of K&L Industries, and Kelsey Wright of Pro Line Parking Lot Maintenance. Let's get started.
All right, you guys all pumped?
Let's do it.
You ready for a podcast with Kelsey?
Yeah. Been looking forward to it all day.
I knew it. I got that text earlier. But all right. Again, this is how we started out with the podcast with Kelsey Wright. But I'll be the host today, so we're going to have fun. This is the TCS Women Podcast, and I'll be the host today. So Kelsey Wright, I'm with Pro Line Parking Lot Maintenance out of Charlotte, North Carolina. And let's have you lovely ladies introduce yourself. Tell everyone who you are.
I'm Lillian Calloway with K&L Industries out of Canby, Oregon.
And I am Sandra Albert with Bay Country Contractors out of Leonardtown, Maryland.
Awesome. Well, I just wanted to start off. We had our women all call on Tuesday. And I know, Sandra, you had to miss. And we got to discuss as a big group different topics. The main focus was imposter syndrome. And we led into, at the end of the call, emotions within business. And that's going to be the topic for today. And when I was thinking of topics to discuss today, I really couldn't think of anything. And I was a little heated after that all call. And I was pumped. And Joyce asked me, she's like, what do you want to do today? I said, I think we need to talk more about this emotions in business with women and just in general, emotions in business. So I wanted to ask you ladies, what comes to mind when you think about women and emotion in the business world? So whoever wants to start, I want to hear what you think.
Oh, I'll start. I'm going to tell you that this has been a hot topic in my company because I am a very loving, relationship building, nurturer, encourager. The mother of the company. And I love people and I'm here to serve. And that is my role in the company, is not only to serve my team, but I'm also there to serve my clients, serving at the level that I do. So I have a lot of interactions. You know, I'm the direct face that the clients talk to. And I will tell you that when it comes to, you know, emotional intelligence, that I have really been tested this year. For specifically Bay Country, we have had a major problem with collecting payments. And I've had delay in payments of upwards 60 to 90 days. And that puts a major hurt on our cash. And so what ends up happening is that because I'm the face of the company, because I handle the contracts, and I also lead our financial team, that I have had to take myself to a place that is not professional, that I'm not proud of. I have had to act like an absolute lunatic to these clients because of the problems that they're putting us in. The delay of payment not only puts myself in a cash crunch, but it also impacts the relationships with my vendors. So if I'm not paying my vendors in an appropriate time, I then put the business at risk of the vendor shutting down our account, and not just our account on that specific job, but accounts across the board. And I have, again, this role of collecting this outstanding cash has put me in a place of it's pushed my boundaries. It's pushed me to a place that I actually am not proud of that I have had to lose my cool. And again, that's not who I am. I want to love you and I want to serve you and I want to be, provide you solutions. But when you take me to this place that you are impacting my business and you're impacting my vendors, some of these GCs that we work with, they're across the country, right? So it doesn't matter to them that I'm impacting relationships within the community that I work, that I live, and that I break bread with. So I've had to really grow through it because, again, it's real life when I have cash problems. And in today's economy, you're not seeing the same payment terms that you did a year ago, 2 years ago. 30 days, okay, that's great. 45 days, But taking me to 60 and 90 days of me threatening liens and sending crazy emails, it's been hard. It's been hard because I feel like it's changing me as a leader, as a person, and it's taking me again to places I'm not proud of. So emotional, intelligence is real life going on for me specifically.
That's
I
hard.
have a question for you. Do you think that if you were a male, that the answers would be any different?
I'm going to tell you yes, because what's happened is that, the president of the company, Daniel, we on a regular basis are talking about the cash, where's it's coming from, what's the delay, what's the problem. And I will tell you that he will step in, he will send one email, have one phone call, and the entire problem has been resolved. And I've been dealing with it for 3 weeks. This literally happened yesterday, where I have a client who wants us to return to a job. They owe us for 2 pay applications. I was very clear, we will not be returning to the job. The job is actually complete. So this work is a change order. So we've met our contractual obligation to the job. I will not be returning to do this change order work for you until we've been paid. I have been arguing with them and going back and forth for weeks. He literally makes one phone call and one email yesterday, and the check was overnighted to me last night.
Aren't you so glad he's powerful?
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you that it hurts my ego. It hurts my ego because it makes me feel that I'm not competent. It makes me feel that I am not strong enough because is it because he's a male? Is it because he serves at a higher level executively? Is it the relationship that he's already established that I didn't have? Like, what is the reason that he's able to accomplish these things? And again, it's no skin off of his back, but my role is to, accomplish these things. And then when he steps in and takes care of it in 5 minutes, and I've been dealing with it for weeks, like that hurts my soul because I just feel that, did I not do a good enough job?
Well, you feel like you can't do your job.
Yes. And then it's like, well, what good am I serving my company if I can't accomplish these things, but he can do it in 5 minutes?
Were the situations or the contacts, everything the same? Same situation, same phone numbers that he had, that you had, everything the same?
Everything the same.
That is interesting. I mean, I definitely can relate to that. Like, you're chipping away at something, trying to get through, and then all you have to do is like, hey, Daniel, come over here. And then he gets right through that wall.
Yes. And then, he kind of laughed about it, but I was super irritated because I was like, it may seem funny to you, but like my ego is super bruised because I couldn't accomplish it. I couldn't get it done. I couldn't get, I couldn't get them to comply, and he's able to do that. And it seemed so simple. His words were so simple. His actions were so simple. Excuse me. And I started off early, like really nice.
I think,
I was
probably
nice.
I think more so it was probably relationship more
Yeah.
than just what you did or didn't do, because I can only laugh because been there 1,000 times, and
Mhm.
especially in collections. And I've had to give answers about some things that aren't paid for, and I can try and try and try and, well, let me pick up the phone. Like, great, then you should have done that 3 weeks ago, because this is frustrating. I could have had more time, but I think,
Side note to this, the payment, they overnighted a payment that was 60 days late and charged me to overnight it.
You should be charging them for
You're going to
interest.
charge me to overnight a 60-day payment. Yeah.
I would add that to the change order.
I would.
Well, it's called a lump sum contract because that's the lump sum that you've agreed to pay. So in the end, you're still going to owe me for that amount.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness.
I think there's another aspect, not changing your thing, but I think the other aspect of emotions and work is when you have a lot of females in one office, there's a lot of emotions that go on.
Well, majority of
And
the people in your office are women, correct?
yes, there's 3, 4, 5, 6 of us. And yeah, there's a reason I really didn't want daughters when I started having kids, because I have 4 sisters and I don't deal well with female emotions. I can get to the fact and hurt my feelings, but I can deal with it and I can sulk and get over it. But I am not the let's go on for days and let's drag this out and let's get all emotional and rehash it 47 times, 15 different ways. But it's just like, if you don't like something, then speak up and say you don't like it and get over it so we can move on.
Mhm.
But not everybody's made that way. And it's hard. And it depends upon the day and sometimes the moment. That's when you talk about emotions and work, that's what I think of, is all the emotions in the office.
I can relate to that. And unfortunately, or fortunately, it is only me and one woman, and everyone else are men. So I don't really have the woman on woman kind of situations, but I guess going into our next topic that I wanted to bring up, or question, do you think women are expected to handle emotions differently in business than men?
Hmm. I don't know that they're expected to handle them differently. Think that they have different, I think other people expect our reactions to be different than they are in business. And
Elaborate a little more.
well, I often tell, there was one gal who worked here a few years ago that she would look and she's like, I cannot believe you were so nice to them or said that. And I said, well, just because I was that way on the outside does not mean that was the way I was on the inside. And there are times in business when you have to really just tongue in cheek and get through a situation and vent later, because it's not going to do any good to jump out and, to bite someone's head off, because you're going to get less distance with anger than you would with just staying calm and repeating facts.
Mhm.
And it actually frustrates people when you just stay calm and repeat facts, because the moment you get emotionally charged, they're in charge. And
I
so
like that. I like
it
that.
is definitely a learned technique.
Yeah. Self-regulation.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really important when in business, especially as a woman, because we are run by our emotions. And I think self-regulation is a tool that makes you a good leader when you're able to regulate yourself and others on your team.
Mm-hmm. So I was talking about this topic, or particularly this question, with Megan. She's on the TCS All-Call, Women All-Call on Tuesday. And her response to this was that the stereotypical response that women tend, or stereotypical like phrase about women and emotions, is that we are often labeled over emotional or sensitive or irrational, just by expressing any kind of emotion in the workplace. So like if you're expressing frustration or passion during a meeting or presentations, whatever the situation may be, you're then labeled as over emotional. Or if basically the opposite, or like you're unprofessional. But if you suppress your emotions and you don't say anything, then you're looked at as that you're lacking empathy, that you don't care, that you're seen as cold. Have you experienced any of these situations?
I think I get labeled cold more often than too emotional.
You get labeled cold?
Oh yeah. Because
I
I've
don't
learned
see it.
I've learned to not have emotions, especially when there's something that really upsets me. I will
Mhm.
just listen. Because if I say anything, it won't be productive and I will get less information.
So you're using silence to get more information. Okay.
Spoke, it would show that there's emotion. I don't hide my emotions well. And so if I spoke, you would definitely hear the frustration in them.
More in tone than anything for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How about you, Sandra?
I think too, emotions unfortunately are tied, I think, to people like to blame it on your menstrual cycle. Like, oh, she's emotional because it's her time of the month. And it's like, no, actually, I'm emotional because I'm actually not happy. Or like, these are real emotions that I'm feeling. They're not based on my hormone or my cycle. And that's something that like really irritates me. I am in control of my emotions. They're not driven, per my hormones, especially not in the workplace. At home, I might lose a little bit on my teenager, but in the workplace, my emotions are driven by whatever action has given me those emotions, not tied to a menstrual cycle.
I would agree. That's we were talking about that. I think Robin brought that up too. They're like, oh, you're reacting this way because you're a woman, or you, any excuse it was relating it back to that. But it could just be, no, I'm upset because of something you just said during a meeting, or you didn't do this correctly, or you didn't bring this to the table. I could have that reaction because this is the response to what you did. It doesn't have to be because of me, of my hormones, or anything else that's related to because I'm a woman. It could just be because the fact that this is what happened.
I also think too, where I get in trouble with emotions is the empathy side of it, of allowing people to maybe have bad habits or, ignore a systems and process, and I feel this emotional connection of that I care for them, and I take it to a level that actually doesn't allow me to do my job maybe in the best manner that I should, because I feel bad for them. Or I feel, that I know they're going through a hard time. They're struggling with X, Y, or Z personally. And so then I allow my emotions to dictate how I handle a situation when really I need to, remove the emotion of what I'm feeling and address it head on. I think that comes to like when I'm like firing people. Sometimes I've allowed people to stay longer than they really probably should have in the company because I've let it go. My emotions have led me. instead of me looking at the facts and letting someone go based on performance and not meeting expectation.
Mhm. So how do you set those boundaries like between, I mean, we have a lot of women or people in general just working within our workplace, and being a woman, you tend to want to build those relationships, be a nurturer, have those aspects of emotion. How do you set those boundaries to limit yourself so you're not constantly sucked in that way, and to avoid like a burnout? Like you just it's exhausting to be continually pulled in those situations, but also be their leader. So I guess, how do you separate or set those boundaries for yourself? Do you get my question?
For me, I found the most effective is actually just being honest.
Yeah.
And sometimes it really shocks people. I mean, I speak the same way with my husband. I don't want to talk to you right now because I really don't like you. So we'll deal with it later, and other situations of, I'm just not going to deal with this right now because I don't have the capacity and it's not going to be a good turnout if you push me to do this. So for me, my coping is I'm just honest, because then if I blow up and they keep pushing me, I already warned them.
Do you
So,
take that approach with your coworkers or just with Keith?
sometimes. So it depends upon the situation, but most of the time, if I'm too emotional, I will make it known that I'm too emotional and I can't deal with it because it won't be good. And even in collections, which is not my favorite thing, they will definitely get the message that, I mean, I had to write a letter the other day because right after we had done a job, their house got robbed and he accused our guys of doing it. And they didn't do it. It was just a coincidence that happened, but he wanted to withhold payment until he got all the police evidence saying it wasn't our guys. And so he made a partial payment, and 60 days later, I had to write him a letter and say, I realize that you made a partial payment, but under the Oregon state law, and you just have to deal with facts. I have till day 75 to collect from you. And if I don't, then I need to file. If you don't pay, then I'm filing a lien. And here's the date. Hope you're doing great. Have a great day. But it was just sticking to the facts of, and that really is, I have a lot of emotions, but I don't always deal with emotional situations well.
Mm-hmm.
I start getting too logical, and then it creates more havoc.
Because you're being too logical.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you, Sandra?
For me, I create boundaries and division. And in doing so, because I am a leader inside of my company, I do not intermix really with the employees. I'll intermix with you, obviously within the workplace, but I do set boundaries outside of that. I'm not going to go shopping and hang out with you. And that's nothing personal. It's just how I create division and I create the level of professionalism. I try to remove myself from conversations when they get, super personal. Because if I don't, then I'm going to be like PETA and save all the people. And I am an emotional person and I am a relationship person and I love everyone. But for me, over the years of having my own company and now serving inside of a country, I don't make good decisions when I am in too deep. And so I have to create the boundary of professionalism and, friendship in the workplace. And I keep them very separate.
I love that. We were talking in the all call that we didn't feel like that you can make a good business decision or decisions in general when you're so emotional or attached to a situation. I really try, even at Proline, I mean, just to look at the situation black and white, try and take your emotions out of it. And even if it's a situation where it's coming back on me, like I did something wrong, someone's coming at me, they're saying I'm doing something wrong. I try to look at the situation so black and white, take how I feel about it, how my emotions and my ego about the situation, just look at it, be like, all right, Kelsey, did I really do something wrong? Did I say something inappropriate? Was I disrespectful in any way? If I can look at that situation and say, no, I didn't, like, okay. So we were talking about that in the all call, if how emotions and business really relate, and can you make good decisions being emotional? So for me, I don't really think that you can. It kind of seems like, Sandra, you're kind of saying the same thing. I'm assuming, Lillian, you might say the same thing as well, or what do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why I'm honest when I'm in that emotional state.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I can't separate this. So you either got to give me the space or you're going to get the emotions. So, and it probably won't be a good turnout.
And Sandra, you were talking about emotional intelligence earlier, and that is a huge, to me, a definition of what you just said, Lillian, of emotional intelligence. But I feel like some people have different perspectives on that term. Do you have a specific definition that you go by of what emotional intelligence is? You don't have to say what you feel it is. Yeah.
Oh.
So like for me, I feel like emotional intelligence, that it's like the ability to understand and just like use or like manage your own emotions inside your head in like a positive way. So I can look at my emotions, how I'm reflecting on something, how I feel in the turmoil inside me, and to break it down and then reflect that emotion positively in a better way. So to me, it's an understanding of your emotions and using it for the better. To me, that's how I take that definition or use it.
I agree.
I would agree with you.
Yeah, I think emotional intelligence consists of like self-awareness, self-regulation, internal motivation, empathy, and your social skills.
Okay.
Yeah, I think those things all play into your emotional intelligence.
Okay. Do you feel like that's hard to do in general, to use emotional intelligence? Do you feel like a good handle on it?
I think it's ever evolving. I think, when you're put into different situations, you're using different parts of those skills. This year's tested me on my emotional intelligence, right? Of just everything that has come at me and the situations that I've put in. And some of those situations I've been a winner, and some of those I have not. And some of those I've had to call, or I've sent an email and say, look, that actually wasn't professional of me to say, or I didn't handle that in the right way. I'm learning. I'm not perfect, and I'm going to tell you when I've crossed the line. And I think that plays into emotional intelligence, is when you have taken yourself to a place that wasn't healthy for you, wasn't healthy for the employee, wasn't healthy for the client. And I think people appreciate that like, okay, yes, you did lose your cool, but you also had the self-awareness to come back and say, hey, I didn't actually handle that the right way.
Yeah. I actually did that with my coworker, yesterday or day before. I had to call her in the morning. She was doing different stuff in the office and I needed her to stop right away. And I called her because I was in the middle of so many things and I was kind of snappy. And after I got off the phone, I thought about it, and Daniel's like, Kelsey, that was not okay. And I thought about it. I'm like, yep, nope, that was not okay. So I called her right up. I'm like, hey, I am so sorry. The way I talked to you on the phone, that was inappropriate. I shouldn't have spoken that way. It's not an excuse what I had going on. So I apologize. But yeah, like you said, it's the self-awareness, the maturity to actually look at yourself, self-reflect, and see how you can use those emotions for positive to push you forward. So I can relate.
I can't.
Yeah, and where's the motivation coming from? The internal motivation.
30% connected to KLLILLIAN and loves K.
I don't know what that was. Sandra, what did you say?
So I feel like that's where the like internal like motivation of like, where's it coming from? What is your actual motivation of where this emotion is coming from? Is it healthy? Is it not? Like you were able to, you know, sometimes when somebody's around or you're bouncing these conversations off of someone and somebody's able to like regurgitate it back to you and you're like, oh, maybe I didn't handle that right. Maybe I didn't say that in the right way. Maybe the tone that I had and what was my motivation in saying those things.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to that, you know, of was it pure? Were my intentions good? I just really screwed up in the words.
And I think adding to the emotional intelligence is really being willing to humble yourself enough to say I was wrong. That's what really brings the full circle of it is, you know, we're humans, so we're going to blow it. We don't always have everything under control, but the key is, especially in business, is to go back and call your coworker and say, I didn't speak to you right, or, you know, or even talking to a customer. There have been customers who have hung up, and I would call them back and say, let's start again here. I'm just trying to resolve this issue. So please tell me why you're not paying so we can work forward, but I need you to understand here's the laws that I have to function in. And sometimes you both have to get to that emotional buildup in order to create the resolve.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes there's so much pent up inside of you. And also sometimes those emotions are not just this situation. It's literally what's going on all around you and the rest of the day. And this just happens to be the last straw that makes everything blow up. So.
Well, to wrap all this up, I wanted to, I guess, if we all can collaborate, what are some tips that we can give other women in business to help with their emotional intelligence or just dealing with emotion in business? So some advice that we can give them or some tips. So, who wants to start? Sandra, I feel like your brain is ticking over there.
Well, I'm going to start with myself because all of this advice I really could use it. I think it's just about going back to your center. Whether you're, you know, someone who's spiritual and you pray, whether you're someone who meditates, I think it's going back to your center and remembering who you are, what your core values are, you know, what, you know, where you started, going back to the beginning of your day and refocusing and recentering your energy and praying and getting right back in your heart, and going forward.
I like it. How about you, Lillian?
I would go back to what I just said, the fact that you always need to be willing to apologize. And sometimes you need to find something to apologize, to break the ice, to break the emotional standstill that's going on. Because sometimes someone just needs to see that you're willing to listen and that you're not trying to drive your point, but you want to communicate, not just push. And so sometimes it's just backing off a little bit and say, okay, I'm really sorry. I don't understand this. And I know things are emotional, but let's take a step back and let's kind of clear the air a little bit so we can get to a point of actual communication.
I like it. I think my biggest thing, like you said, I liked your set boundaries that you spoke about earlier for helping your emotional state, especially within the workplace. So that's, I think, is a great tip. I think the other one is kind of making like a rapport with people around you, making sure they understand that you're trying to understand their emotions and where they're at and where they're coming from if they're having an emotional response. So I guess I'm going to take a sleeve from Daniel's book. It says, seek first to understand, then to be understood. So I'm gonna go with that one. I just feel like that helps make more communication smoother and just helps with your honestly being effective as a leader. So I think that's a good tip I would throw out there. But anyone else got any more? You got any other tidbits? No,
Nope.
crickets. We all got crickets over here. But all right. Well, I appreciate you ladies coming on here and talking about some emotional intelligence, just emotion and business in general. I feel like women can embrace their emotions as tools and just help them better communicate within being as a leader, collaboration, just everything, just being more effective with your emotions by using these tools. So use your emotions as a tool. It's kind of my giveaway, but I appreciate you ladies and thanks for letting me host. I felt like I had fun and there wasn't tons of crickets throughout this time, so I appreciate it, and maybe I'll host again. I don't know.
Great job, Kelsey. Great job.
Welcome to the TCS Women Podcast, where the ladies of the top contractor school are going to get together to discuss what it's like to be a woman in construction, leadership, and navigating the balance between it all. Your host for the TCS Women Podcast will be Carla Goldammer, who has been in construction for almost 30 years with D&J Site Construction. She will be accompanied by a rotation of co-hosts that include Elizabeth Ryman of RK Ryman Construction, Sandra Albert of Bay Country Contractors, Lillian Calloway of K&L Industries, and Kelsey Wright of Pro Line Parking Lot Maintenance. Let's get started.